Okay, let's just dive right in. We've all seen them, right? These really high-priced art prints, maybe in a gallery or at some special event. But you gotta wonder, how does a print, a copy, end up with a price tag of thousands and thousands of dollars? Well, today we're gonna pull back the curtain and deconstruct the business model behind it all. And trust me, the answer is way more surprising than you think.
To really get what's going on here, we have to start with this. Well, it's a pretty chilling insight from someone deep inside the industry. They said, in this business, even the artists and salespeople become targets. That one sentence tells you everything. This is not a simple story of a scammer and a victim. No, this is about a system. So first up, that art-sized price tag. What's the deal with it? How on earth is it justified? And more importantly, when a print sells for the price of an original painting, who is actually pocketing all that cash? But here's the big twist. To understand what went so wrong with this model, we first have to look at what went right. Because this whole business, it wasn't always broken. Actually, it started out with some really noble, pretty cool intentions. You see, the whole idea of edition prints was kind of revolutionary. It was a movement to break art free from the grip of just a few super wealthy collectors. The idea was that artists could produce a limited, signed run of a piece, and that would make their work accessible to way more people. It really challenged this old idea that only a single priceless original could ever hold any value.
And this journey from a cool idea to a full-blown industry is pretty fascinating. Back in the 60s all the way to the 80s, you had pioneers like Andy Warhol using things like silk screening to make a huge statement about art and money. By the 90s, this whole thing had matured into a pretty healthy market, especially over in Japan with artists like the amazing Yoshitaka Amano. But then from the 2000s onward, something just broke. Those original principles totally abandoned for a brand new, high-pressure sales game.
And let's just hang on that healthy market for a second. During what we can call the Amano era, you had this kind of perfect balance, a three-way equilibrium. The artist was famous and established, right? So the price was justified. There was real organic demand from fans, which created genuine value. And the supply was truly limited, which ensured scarcity. So yeah, the price was high, but it was explainable. The artist, the seller, and the buyer, everybody understood the deal and felt they were getting something valuable out of it. Okay, so if everything was so balanced and worked so well, where did it all go wrong? That's the crucial point. We need to pinpoint the exact moment and exactly how that beautiful equilibrium just completely shattered. And this slide right here, this shows you the entire game change. It went from art priced by the market, where value came from things like the artist's reputation, public demand, and resale history, to product priced in the moment. All of a sudden, the value was determined only at the point of sale, completely disconnected from any real external art market out there. So how did they pull this off? Well, it was a pretty systematic dismantling of value. First, you get rid of the famous artist. You swap them out for aspiring creators who, have a lot less negotiating power. Second, you just ignore real demand, and instead you manufacture urgency and pressure out of thin air. Third, you completely erase any mention of resale history, mainly because there is no secondary market. And finally, the masterstroke. You keep all the fancy words like limited, signed, and asset, but you strip them of all their actual meaning. And this brings us right back to that chilling quote from the beginning. See, once the model is broken, it's not just about tricking a customer anymore. The whole system gets redesigned so that everyone involved becomes a target. Let's start with the artist. Think about it. In a world with a huge surplus of talented people who are just desperate for a break, their power just evaporates. They're no longer partners in creating value. A lot of the time, they're just happy to be included. They'll accept some terrible terms just to see their work published. And then you have the salesperson. They're often completely trapped in a commission structure that heavily rewards high-pressure sales. Their job isn't to sell art based on its real market value. Their job is to close the deal right here, right now, using pretty much any tactic they need to. They become just another cog in the machine they're operating.
And of course, finally, there's the buyer. They are systematically isolated from all the information that actually matters. They have no idea about the secondary market, or the artist's real contract, or the salesperson's crazy incentives. They're just put under enormous pressure to make a huge financial decision based only on what they're told in that one room, in that one moment.
So you have to ask, why do people, even really smart, cautious people, fall for this? Well, the source material for this explainer gives us this brilliant psychological concept that perfectly explains the buyer's blind spot. It's called a lack of a bird's eye view.
Basically, it's the inability to see the entire system at play. You can't see how the price is really set, you don't see the hidden power dynamics, and you definitely don't see the most critical fact, that there is no real third-party market waiting to buy this asset from you later. You're only seeing the tiny little piece of the puzzle they want you to see. And this part is just so important. As our source says, this isn't an issue of intelligence or morality. It's not about being stupid. It's not about being greedy. It's about being put into a situation that is specifically designed to exploit normal, everyday human trust.
In fact, and this is the paradox, cautious people can be the most vulnerable. Why? Well, because they trust that a proper explanation means something is legit. They see an artist's signature and they assume, naturally, that it confers real value. They truly believe they're making a safe, informed choice. So when that print turns out to be worthless on the open market, they don't blame the system that was built to fool them, they blame themselves. They think, wow, I just have bad judgment.
So, knowing all of this, how do we arm ourselves against it? The goal isn't just to get mad. The final and most empowering takeaway here is learning how to see the structure itself.
Yeah, the real point here isn't to get angry. It's to understand the design of the system. Because once you see the blueprint for how this specific thing works, you'll start recognizing its pattern in all sorts of other places. You start to realize this isn't some one-off problem, but it's just one of many businesses built on good intentions that eventually got twisted and corrupted. So at the end of the day, asking, is it a scam? That's actually the wrong question. It's too simple. The real, powerful question you should always ask is this: who decides the price? The answer to that one question will tell you everything you need to know.